my peeps, I'm back. I am back in India and in a place called Mahabalipuram. Mahabalipuram. Try and say that 3 times fast. Mahabalipuram. 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 And check this out, man. I went over to see a couple of old temples, and behind me is an old temple, man. This one has been standing here since the 7th century. 7th century, can you imagine? They built this, and it's built by the same people, or the same type of tribe people who actually helped build Angkor Wat in Cambodia. This place is really amazing. So 700 AD. This place has been standing here since then. It's a really nice place to see. So I'm going to wander around this UNESCO heritage site of Mahabalipuram. And we'll see what we can see. Okay, the interesting thing about these temples that are here is that this is actually one of 7. And unfortunately, the other 6 are in the sea. The sea is right there. This temple sits right on the Bay of Bengal. If you Google it, Mahabalipuram Temple, this is an area actually, and you can see the shore temple, and the shore temple sits right on the Bay of Bengal, right on the sea. It's actually beautiful. You can hear the sea from here. I don't know if you can hear it in the recording though. Well, if you guys can remember the tsunami that came across Asia back in 2004, the tsunami also affected this area, and this area was really, really flooded. The good thing that came of it is after that, they had to excavate and clean things up and everything like this, and a lot of the things made themselves known that were otherwise never known. Similar to this gigantic area over here with a small temple in it. This actually wasn't there. It was covered in sand and nobody knew it was there until the tsunami came and washed away a lot of the soot and everything like this, along with a lot of other things, of course. But it did reveal some hidden things that people otherwise didn't know were there. Right here on the Bay of Bengal. Nice thing about it, sea breezes, the smell of the sea, it's quite cool. It's nice. So everybody knows that India is really, really steep in history because it goes back like thousands of years, you know. This temple behind me is called the 5 Rathas, which basically translates into the 5 chariots. Now this thing is pretty awesome as well. I mean, this is supposedly have been carved out of one massive stone, a big gigantic mountain or something that was sitting here before, and they carved this thing out. This one piece is supposed to resemble a large royal chariot as well. This is built in the 630 to 638. So it took, 630 to 668. So it took 38 years to build this particular temple behind me. It's pretty awesome looking actually to be here. Really cool. Okay, out of the 5 temples, this particular one is called the Sun Temple, for the sun god. It was actually carved out of one big gigantic stone. Pretty cool. There's a woman on this side and there's a man on that side. I can't imagine them carving this back in the 600s. The unfortunate thing is that there's a lot of corrosion because it's right here on the sea. Like the sea is like just 100 meters over there. It's the Bay of Bengal, the ocean. So there's a lot of wind, there's a lot of corrosion and stuff like this. And this is made out of sand granite. So there's a lot of the details that you don't see that used to be here. But it is beautiful. Okay, the more I actually walk around this place, the more I start to learn. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this is called the 5 Rathas. This means 5 chariots, right? So now that I see it from this angle, there is 5 chariots. There's 4 here, 1, 2, 3, 4. And because I told you this is unfinished, right? So this was supposed to be carved out as horses, pulling these 4 chariots, and the 5th chariot is on the other side, you can't see it. So that's why they say it's incomplete, because back in that dynasty, they were building this, and then another dynasty eventually took over in the 7th century or 8th century, and they never bothered to complete it because, you know, it was the previous king and me, I want to do things myself, you know, that kind of syndrome. But it's pretty freaking nice, really. Here's some more useless information for you. You see that? Normally, once they finished building a temple, this is what they put on the top. Now they carved this out of stone, they were ready to put it on top, but they didn't finish the temple because they didn't finish the horses on that side and they didn't finish the whole thing. So they never put it on top. So this is not considered an official temple, although they wanted it to be, because this is not on the top. Now that's something unique, something I just learned actually, I didn't know that. It's a very nice set of temples though, but these are not considered temples. This is obviously a UNESCO heritage site, but because it's incomplete, it's not considered a temple. These temples are magnificent. It's really, really amazing to be able to go into these places and walk around and explore like you can do here. Because most places in the world, you can't really get this up close and personal. And I'm inside the second temple. Now, on the other side of it, like I mentioned, there's 5, right? So I originally showed you 4. So on the other side of this great temple is the 5th one. And that one is right behind me, known as the Sun Temple. And the elephant that's carved over there, and it's like a perfectly smooth, beautiful looking elephant, is the elephant that's supposed to be pulling that cart of the 5 carriages of the Sun Temple. It's pretty awesome because although it's not complete inside, you can go inside. And let's go inside and I'll show you something really cool about this place. So as I go inside, obviously it's dark in here, but I can chant. Oh, that's fucking awesome. Oh, can you hear that? I hope you can hear that in recording. It's so awesome. All right, so now I'm sitting in a temple dedicated to Shiva's wife, and that is Shiva's wife behind me. So this is the last little train on all these 5 carts that we just had to look at. You gotta love this place. And I can't believe that this was built in such a long time ago. Well, this amazing carving into this big gigantic rock is called Arjuna's penance. That guy up there, you can see the guy with his kind of hands above his head and things like that. I think it's right around there. That guy is Arjuna. And he spent 12 years on top of a mountain in that pose. That's why you can see in the sculpture skin and bones and things like that. That's Arjuna. And down below, there is a poor guy, and this is supposed to represent the river Ganges. And there's like a teacher, and he's very, very sad because Arjuna spent 12 years in his penance up there on top of the mountain with no food, just meditating and things like that. So they built this sculpture around it, showing 153 of the Hindu gods, plus the elephants and the deers. And those deers down there are actually on the Indian rupee now, believe it or not, from this carving. It's pretty fascinating. Now this is pretty awesome. This whole temple is built and carved into a rock. It's great. So the really cool thing about this carving is this is carved into a solid piece of granite. And it was done in, again, 672 until about 700. So that is a long time ago, man. These stones have been here for an extremely long time. It's quite incredible. And you could walk all through here. I mean, they carved this thing really, really deep into the rock. Who ever thought you could do something like that? It took them forever. It took them 30 years to do it. I'm sure they labored at it quite intensively. So check this out. Behind me is this huge rock. This rock weighs 250 metric tons, 6 meters high, 5 meters wide, and it's sitting on a point that is only 1.2 meters wide. It's sitting on the ground. Very, very small. It's been here. Nobody knows how long it's been here. It's been here since the 600th century when people figured it out. It's called Krishna's butterball, not to be confused with the turkey butterball. Krishna's butterball. It certainly is a gigantic rock sitting here, man. It's pretty cool looking. I mean, it doesn't do justice me standing here in front of it, but I mean, the thing is gigantic, 250 tons. It's pretty cool to see. I like it. A butterball. I heard a story from some of the guides over here that back in the early 20th century, they thought if this thing's going to roll on somebody, it's going to kill somebody, so they wanted to move it. So they got a bunch of elephants and they got a bunch of things like that together, and they tried to move this thing, but they couldn't. It wouldn't budge. So they said, okay, we'll leave it where it is. I wonder if I can push it off its axis. Krishna's butterball. 250 tons of rock sitting on 1 meter of, well, 1 meter is bigger than that, obviously, but 1.2 meters of placement on the bottom. Crazy. All right, see this huge rock behind me? Granite rock. Look at it, it's flat. It's been cut. It's been sliced perfectly. I learned how to do this by one of the local guides over here. You can see there's a mark in the rock right over there. And what they ended up doing around the rock is they put in They drilled these holes, poked holes in the rock. They put wood and bamboo in the rock, and then slowly over time they kept on putting cool water into where those holes were, where the bamboo was. So eventually the bamboo and the wood expanded slowly over time. Now this takes a long time. And it kept on expanding and cracked the rock and broke the rock. And then they were able to further break the rock down, and then it came apart just like you see over here, a huge stone. Now the interesting thing is what they did with this stone is they got a whole bunch of elephants and all those other things that they had back in those days, and they carted this gigantic pieces of stone over to the sea, which is basically about 5 kilometers from here, where the shore temple is that I visited earlier. This is part of the rock that made the shore temple. That's crazy.
Mahabalipuram.